What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the SuperTube Eddie Plays channel. I'm your boy Eddie, joined today by a very, very special guest, none other than Octarius himself, here to talk Spider-Man 2. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, mate, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Excited to talk to somebody about Spider-Man 2 because the other person that I usually speak to, my co-host on another channel, we have this running joke where he assumed for the longest time that he had played Spider-Man 1, 2018. And he spoke about it with such confidence and bravado because I guess I had spoken to him about it so much. He was like, yeah, of course I've played it. Of course, I know about the moment. I know about this moment here, that and that thing that happens there. And then one time I mentioned to him, I was like, oh, and remember when Aunt May died? And he was like, wait, Aunt May died? And then he was like,
crazy.
And then we're like, hold on a second, have you not played the game? And he checked his trophy list and he's like, no, I haven't played Spider-Man 1 yet. So
what?
He obviously hasn't played Spider-Man 2 yet, so it means I can't talk anything with him. So you're saving me from that.
So he gaslighted himself into thinking he's played the first game.
Yes.
How do you even do that? Had he seen a playthrough or something or part of one and got confused?
I'm telling you, because we talk such good gaming together and because we're such good friends and we like talk on the same sort of level, I think I spoke about it through my experience and stuff like that he just imprinted it onto his mind and was like, no, these are now my experiences.
He just stole the experience from you and just implanted it in his brain.
It's amazing. But thank you, bro, so much for giving me this opportunity to talk Spider-Man, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to come here. I really appreciate that. So yeah, guys at home, we're going to be talking Spider-Man 2. We're going to be talking full spoilers. So if you haven't played the game yet and you want to keep the rest of the story spoiler free for yourself, you want to click off now. Exactly. Yeah. Don't spoil this for yourself here. But we're going to be talking full spoilers. Just a full warning here. Don't ever think that we didn't warn you. Don't get that in your mind. Don't gaslight yourself into thinking that we didn't warn you.
Or into thinking that you've already played the game.
Which is totally possible. We have proof of that now.
We do.
But yeah, if you want to play the game yourself, click off now, come back at a later date. But if you've already played the game and you want to hear our thoughts on it, well, you're in the right place because we are two experts, PlayStation experts and Spider-Man experts, aren't we, bro?
Yeah, that would be us. Especially on the Spider-Man side. I think I've played way too much of that game since it came out.
I mean, did you really play it, or do you think you played it? Oh, no, we're not going to do that joke.
No, I can remember the 7th of September 2018, basically minute by minute. Honestly, that day is so vivid in my memory. It's actually kind of mind-blowing.
This is what a true gamer sounds like, ladies and gentlemen. Quick thing I wanted to mention, this also goes for Octarius as well here. We did have these games provided to us by PlayStation, so this is technically sponsored in a way, although it's not like they just gave us a free copy of the game just to make you aware. All of our thoughts are still honest and our own, but keep that in mind, and thank you, PlayStation, for those copies of the game that we got there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so should we dive right into this? Should we dive right into how we felt about Spider-Man 2? Do you want to take it first? You're the guest. You can go first.
Yeah, let's get started. I mean, there's definitely a lot to unpack here. So just overall, back on the day of review embargo, I think that was the 16th. That was the same day that I actually finished playing through the main story. So I only had like a good 3 hours or so to even reflect. And my opinions have changed a little bit since then. Yeah, all in my giant tweet that I just went straight down with and finished it right at the embargo, so you didn't even proofread it. And yeah, there's definitely a lot that has changed since, but overall my opinions are still pretty much the same. So overall, I think it was an incredible game. Insomniac definitely delivered on the hype. Visually, it's really, really good. Just now I've been messing around in photo mode with different weather and just ray tracing that you see on like puddles. Insomniac so took Puddlegate personally. They look so good. It's
right.
really something else. I mean, I think it's MJ Gate now, right?
Now it is. Now
From
it
the
is.
stuff
Yeah.
I've been seeing.
Yeah.
Which,
We'll
for
talk
the
a little
most
bit about
part, I
that.
disagree with. But yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I gave it a 9.8 out of 10 at the time, with my main
Mm-hmm.
criticisms really being just a few missing bits and bobs there. In terms of features, such as no way to change like the time of day natively or mission replay, that kind of thing. I feel like a few features are possibly just abstracted in order to make the release, and then probably add them in at a later point.
Yeah.
And really, there wasn't all that much that I had issues with, especially with the story. I mean, the story blew me away. But like I say, looking back on it now it's been a few weeks. How long has it been? It's been, what, like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks?
20th of October. Let's have a look at this. It's been 2 weeks and a day. Sorry, 3 weeks and a day. So 2 weeks
Yeah.
and a day. 2 weeks and a day. 2 weeks and a day. There you go.
Yeah, so probably about 2.5 weeks since I finished it. And there are now a few things I look back on the story being like, oh, it would have been cool if they did that instead. Or a few little bits like that. But overall, I think they did pretty much as good of a job as could have been done with this, especially
Yeah.
for the time frame that they set out to actually have the story playing, which is another thing that I'm seeing people criticize, the length of a game. I think the length of Spider-Man 2 is pretty much perfect for a game. It's not too short and it's not too long. When you're getting older and stuff, then you don't have as much time. It's just nice to be able to dedicate a time to actually sit down and finish a game properly, rather than scattering it over so long and forgetting what happened earlier on. So I think this is a perfect length for a game. I don't have any issues with that.
The game length conversation is one that actually annoys me to the point that I have to do the whole rubbing my temples thing. I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, honestly, I don't understand it either.
People expect to have an endless game, a game that will never end, and they expect it to be half the price that video games are. And I'm like, I don't
Exactly.
understand it. I don't understand it. And then they put an arbitrary price tag on the length of time as well. It's like, so what happens to games that are like free to play or even endless multiplayer games? How do you value them then? It's like
Yeah,
a Call of Duty,
it's
for example, that you play
ridiculous.
for hundreds of hours. Do you pay £1,000 for that then? Is that, it doesn't make any sense for what you're trying to say there. So it's a debate that kills me, and I've spoken about it many times.
I can get the point of view of if you've paid like £70, $70 for a game and you sat down and 100%ed it in 2 hours. I can understand the complaint then, but
there is
for the
a
most
point
part,
where
that's
it's like-
never ever happening.
exactly.
I think
You're never gonna
Spider-Man
get to it
2
again.
nailed it, to be honest, with length.
True. Sorry, continue.
What about
with what you're saying.
yourself?
That's what I'm doing. Oh, you
What
want me
about
to
yourself?
go?
Overall impressions, just
Overall,
general.
I really, 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 really loved it. It was it's exactly did what it set out to be. What Spider-Man, what Insomniac have been trying to do with Spider-Man games, and it's to make you feel like a superhero, make you feel like Spider-Man. It does all of those things through allowing you to web swing through the city between skyscrapers, saving people along the way, putting other people's like close relationships in jeopardy as you would do with like a superhero, and you have to constantly think about that. Put you in the shoes of Peter Parker and think, man, he has to go through all of this stuff. And it's the best parts of superhero stories, in my opinion. I'm a big superhero fan, mainly DC, but still it applies to both DC and Marvel.
I mean, I completely agree. Sorry just to interrupt you, but I mean,
No, go on.
Spider-Man's obviously such a massive character now, and with how many different adaptations there are, you start to look at it as kind of a merge across all of them. But Insomniac really do faith to like the original comics and properly adapting not just Peter Parker but all the other characters in the universe too, in my opinion. I think it's my favorite adaptation there's ever been, including TV, films, everything. It's just so good.
Do you know what it is? Me and my friend Sheps, the one that has and hasn't played Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We say that video games are by far superior to movies.
Oh, I completely
because-
agree.
Thank you. There we go. Because on
Easy
top of it,
agree.
on top of it also being that you get more content from a video game. So like we get like 9 hours, 10 hours, 30 hours even with some games of content to be in this world of Spider-Man to fully immerse yourself versus a
You
movie
get the
that's
world.
like 2 hours
It's the
long.
world building too.
Exactly. And you get to be in the shoes. You're in the moment doing the thing, and that makes it so much more experiential, and that's why video games are so much more cooler, so much better as a medium and as a format than movies. That's always been our opinion, and we always bring it up every time. Like I interviewed Danielle Basutti, for example, Freya from God of War, and like I had to say, it's
Awesome.
like we all think that you doing like you're a movie star and you're a video game star. In my opinion, the video game stuff is far superior to anything you're doing over there. You're doing great over there, but this is way better in my opinion. And I explained it to her, and she got that on a, at least from a gamer perspective anyway. And yeah, that's always how we feel. And
I mean, from a story perspective, there's so much stuff you can do in games that you just can't get away with in films or TV. Like taking something like The Last of Us into account, especially. So much of that, especially the end, is impacted so well because of how much time you get to spend with Joel and Ellie on their journey and physically in the footsteps. Obviously, the TV series did really well, but you weren't just going to have the like 10 hours of walking between places in between it and having the interactions there that develop that whole relationship as it is. And as good as I thought the TV series was, that was one of the major things I felt it lacked. It seemed like there was just a relationship built up there too suddenly almost.
we did have that conversation as well. We're like, coming from the game to a TV show or even a movie, whatever it's going to be, it's always going to feel just a little bit less than what we originally got. Because
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think they did a good job still.
They did, yes, they did. But back to Spider-Man, as I said, I feel like they set out to make you feel like Spider-Man, feel like a superhero, and that's exactly how I felt. There were multiple parts where I was like gasping. There was multiple parts where I was worried. There was multiple parts where I was happy, and it was a fantastic game. It really, really, really did well. On the technical side, I did. I played the majority of my game after the day one patch came out, and if you didn't know, the people like you probably got the earlier copy. It was apparently quite solid when the game was given out to like reviewers, and then the first day one patch broke it just a little bit, and there was a bit more bugs than there originally was. And I got a couple of bugs, nothing too serious, but that was one thing that got me a little bit. But as you said as well, like the lack of being able to choose like chapter select, for example, so you can go back to certain times and whatnot, day and night selection and whatnot, that's also a little thing. But nothing that would make me go, I'm going to have to dock it like whole points because of X, Y, and Z. In my opinion, those were very minor things, and the game was otherwise pretty damn perfect. And
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, all of my criticisms are basically things that could be added in an update. And I probably wouldn't even have those criticisms if the first two games didn't exist. But it is stuff like the weather and time of day, the fact that they existed before and now they're not here. Same for mission replay. But then loads of like smaller things, like the character menu that's in the first game. And in Miles Morales too. That's such a cool feature, telling you so much about each individual character, and it's just not here. Again, it'll be a time thing. Whether they'll add it into an update, I don't know. They probably won't. I hope they do. But I feel like that's something that probably won't get added. And then something that they do need to add, because it's really annoyed me. I didn't realise it until after I'd published my review, I don't think. But you know how you had Just the Facts and JJ's podcast and then the Danica podcast?
Yes.
They get cut out when a crime activates, right?
Oh, yeah.
In the first game, you could just go into the menu, in the collections, the ones that had played, you could then just re-listen to them there whenever. So if you got cut off, you could go back on it and it'd replay. That's not there. The same goes for the photo opportunities as well. You can't listen back to Robbie's messages. Instead, there's like a thing that Peter says over them in the collections menu. In my opinion, both should be there because, again, those can get cut off and then there's no way to re-listen to them unless you start a new game and do that same one again. But then, oh wait, another crime comes up exactly where you stood and it cuts off again. It's just
you know
little
what?
things like that I didn't
think
realise
about
until as a game released that have kind of annoyed me since. But like we've said, it's not annoying enough or tied directly to the game itself enough to dock it like massive points. But it's definitely disappointing they aren't there.
It just sucks because, especially like after the first game, those, like you said, the podcasts and stuff like that of Jay Jonah going on his rant, it was such a like iconic part of the game, it was such a cool thing, and you would stop on just a rooftop just to listen to the rest of the podcast, something like that.
Yeah.
And now it's, that is annoying, actually. That is a little bit annoying. Oh,
That was actually
Insomniac.
something with those podcasts. I felt like there were not that many JJ ones.
Yeah, they had the other girl in it now, and I was like, oh, come on, man. I mean,
It seemed
I
a
get
pretty
it.
even
I
split,
get it
which
to have
is
a different
fair.
opinion,
But I mean,
but-
just overall, there didn't seem that many. I was kind of looking forward to JJ going on like massive rants about the black suit stuff, and it just didn't really happen. Not that much,
Yeah.
really. Anyway,
there was a couple. There was only a couple, wasn't there?
yeah. Same when Harry was becoming Agent Venom. And you could see him in like crimes, which is really cool. The fact that they made him show up at random crimes in the like one little space between two missions before him not being Agent Venom again. That was a cool detail.
Do you want to hear something funny? I actually never got to see Agent Venom at all because there's such a small portion there. I must have just gone to the next mission and completely missed it. God damn it!
I didn't realize until my second playthrough, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool!"
Crap. That's such a cool thing that I completely missed out on now.
It is. I mean, it's just like when you see Wraith or Miles, really, but it is cool. The fact that it's there. But that shows that he was out about in the city. So again, it was like, there might have been, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember there being any podcast really being like, oh, there's a new spider person, really, aside from the one directly after the stuff on Coney Island. But actually seeing something on it after he had a suit and it wasn't just someone who we don't know who's just saved these people would have been cool in my opinion. Also, sorry to keep speaking, but you mentioned bugs. So I got the game on the 11th of October. I checked that yesterday for a different reason, actually. So I think I was playing before the day one patch for the most part until like the 15th or 16th.
Okay.
So most of my impressions did come from that. And I didn't experience any bugs or glitches at all, apart from one minor audio bug where for some reason footsteps specifically just weren't playing. And that was the only audio not there. Everything else was, again, easily fixed by just restarting at last checkpoint. I noticed it instantly, and I think it was on the Coney Island mission at the very start. So, easy fix. And the other one that was a bit more immersion breaking is, you know the scene where Pete gets the symbiote for the first time?
Yeah.
His hair just disappeared.
Okay.
It was so weird. It did definitely break the immersion for a second. And I don't know if it fixed that, actually. I imagine they have. Yeah, that was definitely a strange one. And then after the day one patch, I did start to notice a lot more weird things going on. Definitely not a lot by any means, and the majority of what I was coming across made me laugh. They weren't like game breaking or anything, so I didn't really care. But I did seem to see more after day one, which was weird. But it might have just been because I was spending more time in the open world after the story. I don't know.
I heard that after the day one patch, people were getting a few more bugs, but these things happen. Someone's told me once tried to explain to me how game design works is that if you're building a house, for example, and you're fixing a pipe over here, the worst thing that can happen is that another pipe breaks or something happens with the water. But with game design, you could be fixing the toilet, and then all of a sudden your roof is leaking, and it's like that two things just somehow that don't even connect to each other can be breaking after touching one thing. So that's just how game design works, I guess. Okay.
I don't have much experience in programming in like game design, but for like programming other stuff, I can definitely relate to that. It doesn't make sense to me, but it happens.
Yeah. Okay, should we get a little bit more nitty gritty? Should we talk a little bit more about some of the best story moments?
Yeah, I think we should.
Let's do it. Do you want to go first? Go ahead.
I mean, don't ask me to pick out a favourite moment because I don't think I can. There's definitely a few that come to mind. I mean, the first one, to be fair, that pops up into my head, and I bet a lot of people will agree, was definitely the MJ run. That was so good.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you what, though, again, looking back on it now, one thing I kind of wish happened, and call me a psychopath for thinking this or wanting this or whatever, but I kind of wish that he really, like, injured MJ, like, kind of seriously bad.
Jesus. Confirmed.
No, I know.
Women
no.
hurt. Yep, here we go.
I mean, anyone. It didn't have to be MJ specifically, but like
all women.
After he lost the suit, it was just because it felt there was suddenly no consequences. It was like he just made like 2 calls and was like, "Oh, sorry about that," and that was it. It would have been nice if not nice, but impactful if it was a more serious consequence than just I was a bit edgy for a few days. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back now. It would have been
100%
cooler to see that, which also in my mind sort of made me wish maybe a good way they could have done that is if Miles did let him kill Craven when he had that opportunity. But then that would have obviously meant we didn't get what we got later, which was definitely worth it.
Yes. And also, do you know how many people would be upset with that? I don't know if if you're a taller Batman versus Superman watcher, but people lost their crap when they saw Batman being so brutal. Can you imagine what would happen if they said, "Oh, Insomniac, you made Spider-Man kill a man"? What?
Yeah, but the easy excuse of he's wearing like what becomes Venom, and I mean at that point it was Venom.
There's no rhyme or reason with these people, okay? Because, I mean, Spider-Man's kicking people into flames and into oncoming traffic all the way through this game, but they don't care about that. It doesn't
matter. He's definitely killed a few people, as much as we can say he hasn't.
Throws him off the roof of a building.
Of people died.
Throws him off the roof of a building, and it's like, don't worry about it. He's going to be okay.
I mean, it's when you can like web people to something that you know is going to explode.
Right,
he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Tank.
I mean, approaching the release, I was really, really nervous. I was obviously so excited for it to be releasing, but I was nervous that it just wasn't going to live up to like the hype and was going to be a massive letdown. And I kid you not, I cried playing the opening mission. It was instantly such a relief. The opening mission, and I'm sure everyone who's played it, it was so impressive by sheer scale, visually, just the writing was so good. The music, everything about it just came together so well. And I instantly knew that this was just going to be perfect as a game. And that in itself just made me so happy that I got tearful. And
it was a really strong opening, that whole Sandman sequence, and also a flex of the PlayStation 5 as well, like throwing Miles across the map and having everything just load in so quickly. It was like, oh, this is fucking great. And it was a great moment. Oh yeah, that was pretty great. I have to say my favorite moment. It was very hard. There's a lot of good moments, as we've said before. I think the moment that I felt the most was obviously when Peter got stabbed and he was about to die in front of MJ and Harry, and I could feel the pain. I could feel the pain coming through, like Harry just like screaming like, "No, no!"
Yeah, the acting was great.
And I was like, oh my God. And then like you see the suit jump onto him. I'm like, oh my God, okay, he's got to come back. He's got to come back. I have this really good ability where I can suspend, because obviously in that moment, you know, Peter Parker isn't going to die. Spider-Man is not going to die. But I have this ability in my mind to sort of like suspend that from my mind to go, we don't know what's going to happen. I have to see what's going to happen for me to actually know what's going to happen. And
I had a part of me thinking they might have done a Last of Us Part 2 there.
Oh Jesus! You reckon they're like, I
Like,
don't know, we're killing Peter Dunn.
I was like, no way have they done this. Maybe I thought for a second, I was like, maybe we just play as Harry for the rest of the game and like he takes on the Spider-Man mantle. Is that what happens?
Hold on a second.
That thought definitely went through my mind.
There's a woman coming in with a golf club. What is she doing? Is that Abby?
Nah, it's MJ. Both Laura Bailey, it works.
MJ's like, do you know what? I've had a fucking enough. Oh man, yeah. That would have been a hell of a card to pull. And I mean, do you remember the backlash that that Naughty Dog got from doing that to Joel?
Yeah.
It'd be even worse for this situation.
It would have definitely blown my mind had they done that.
You'd have to.
I'm obviously very, very glad they didn't, but it would have been
Yes.
it would have been something else.
It would have been something else. I would have had to have tipped my hat and be like, look, I did not see this coming. Okay, this is
same.
But yeah, that was a strong moment right there, and I was very, it was very, very cool. Like, it's moments like that we really need in video games. Similar with the Last of Us Part 2, I say that like movies can do this stuff where they shake you like emotionally to your core, and granted, it was done a lot harder in Last of Us Part 2, but this was also done quite well here. And that's what I really love in video games. Those things where you're like, okay, it's not just we're not just doing video games here. We're doing hard, emotional moments. We're doing really, really good stuff that's pushing the medium. And yeah, that was a really cool moment for me. I really liked that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something
Did you
else that
see-
made me think. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go on. No, you go on. Go on, you first.
You sure?
Yeah, go on.
Something I thought with that moment is I wasn't sure if it was going to end up being a case of, if Harry gets the symbiote back, Pete dies. I didn't know if it was going to be that kind of thing.
Right.
I'm glad it wasn't.
'Cause-
I don't know what happens to his wound after. What did the symbiote actually do?
This is the thing, because in Harry's case, it seemed to be like, oh, I'm just holding the disease off at bay. Like, it's there, I can't delete it, I can just hold it. And then when it comes to Peter, it's like, cool, yeah, I can repair any wound you have, don't worry about it.
Like we know
I
it
can
has healing abilities.
build you a
But
new
for
body
Pete,
if you want, don't worry.
For Pete, it was permanent, but for Harry, it wasn't. And yeah, exactly. I don't quite get that. That was a bit weird.
It was one of those things where it's like, look, we say it, okay? Just go with it.
Yeah,
Just go with it.
you just go with it. I mean, with that, on a similar note, the Carnage side quest.
Oh,
We can get to this proper later, but just before I forget, something I did get confused at about this is Oscorp were transporting another part of the symbiote. They had another one lying around, or like a part of it.
exactly.
And Norman Osborn and Harry didn't seem to know about this.
No. You see, what happened there is that they didn't write it down in their calendar that they were transporting that day. They just forgot about it. It's just one of those things, it happens.
Because had they known, obviously they could have just been like, "Oh, here you go, Harry," and it would have solved the game.
We used it once. Let's use it again.
Exactly. That's probably my main gripe with the story, to be fair, and it's just a minor thing. That kind of hurts it a lot because I don't understand what happened there. I mean, I don't care that much. I don't really care at all. It was just something I noticed, and in the moment, I was like, "Hold up."
Hold on a second. If you had this, yeah, I definitely noticed that as well. After
Maybe
the initial
Norman
moment
just
where,
wanted Harry to die.
this whole time is like, look, he's a disgrace to me, okay? I'm just going to pretend like I care. It's like, I go, oh no, my son. No, my son. Damn it, he's still alive. He's just in a coma. God damn it. Okay, we'll see how long he lasts. I did think that as well. As soon as I had that shock moment where I was like, oh, Carnage! Oh my God. Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
We could have used... Yeah, I did have that. What I was going to say was, did you happen to at all see my theory on who Venom was going to be before it released?
I mean, I can't say I remember.
I had a theory that it was going to be Kraven the Hunter was going to be Venom.
I had seen theories on this. I don't know if I saw yours specifically.
My idea was going to be that basically he was going to fight Spider-Man in the symbiote suit, get his ass handed to him, and then eventually see, a bit like how he did in the game, actually see that it's the suit that actually gives him all this power, and he notices how to weaken him, and then he was going to take the suit from him and then become Venom. And I was like, oh cool, that could be a cool way. And when I played the game and it didn't happen, I wasn't too beat up or anything, but I had a bunch of people obviously who'd seen my video and were like, ha, it wasn't him. You see, it wasn't him. It was Harry, like we said all along. And I also said that I feel like they're pushing Harry too much, like they're trying to trick us. So I was really on that crusade.
Yeah, I felt that too.
It seemed like it, right? They seemed like they were pushing Harry far too much. Anyway,
especially
I told those
when
people,
with the first game trailers, they were purposely trying to hide Doc Ock.
Right.
So I think that kind of added to us thinking that.
I then turned around to these people and I said, look, I got the game early. I couldn't tell you the truth, so I was saying false things on purpose to throw you off of the scent. Exactly. That's what I was doing right there. Bear in mind, I only got the game the day before it came out, but don't worry about that. Don't worry about any of that nonsense. Okay.
I'm definitely happy with the approach it took with Harry. It was definitely a new take. It was a good take on it too. It fit the overall Insomniac Spider-Man 1048 universe very, very well, and the continuation of the first game. So I think it definitely worked at best. I'm also glad we got to see Pete almost be Venom. Like, I think all of that part of the game, especially with the voice also being there, was really cool. So cool. I really liked that. I won't lie, I was, in my first playthrough, I was thinking, have they done it? Is Pete actually going to be Venom? It was getting to that point, especially when we first heard the voice. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's going that way. And I think it would have been really cool to see that actually. But I think that would have resulted in too many casualties on Pete's side where there was a point of no return. So the opposite of what I said I wanted earlier. Which I still stand by.
Someone we haven't spoken about yet, and I feel like this is actually a point that I want to bring up. We haven't spoken about Miles yet at all. How did you feel about Miles in the whole game? Or would you like me to go first? Whichever one you want to do, obviously.
You go first if you want.
I feel like Miles, while he was cool and he was fine, there was nothing wrong with him per se. I felt like he was a little bit underdone, a little bit under. I would have liked a bit more from him. Like his missions were pretty much just like they weren't as Spider-Man-y, as interesting, I would say, as say like Peter's one. Granted, Peter was in the suit and he was juggling the morals of keeping the suit versus like denying that the suit's changing him, blah blah blah, and all that stuff like that, which is what we were all here for in the first place. But I feel like Miles's ones was just missions were a little bit stepped down.
I think I can get that.
I would have liked something because I loved Miles Morales the game or the side game by itself.
Yeah, me too.
That was fantastic, and I was really looking forward to. In fact, me and Sheps were saying maybe possibly they're thinking this was before Spider-Man 2 was announced. Maybe they're possibly thinking to go Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Miles Morales in terms of game releases and tandem those two because we thought that Spider-Man Miles Morales by itself was strong enough to be its own character, its own game. It could do its own thing. I like what they've done here with them both together, but that's what I was thinking. And in this one, I felt like he was just a little bit weaker. Granted, I guess the focus was going to be on Harry, on Peter, on Venom, and Miles Morales is there to also help him. The moment that he does help him, that was fucking fantastic. That was exactly what I wanted to see from Miles.
Yeah, same.
But outside of that, I was like, damn, Miles isn't really around too much.
I think the main thing to bear in mind is this is still fundamentally Pete's like game. I know like marketing, it is a Spider-Man game, don't get me wrong. It's still very much Miles' story as well, but at its core, it's Harry who ends up being the main villain. It's Peter who Craven is actually ending up hunting. It's Pete who gets the symbiote in the end. It's Pete's relationships that it's impacted, and we get to see Miles's point of view on that. But obviously, I think to do Miles justice properly, we may have needed like a completely separate sort of side story for him, which I don't think would have worked. So I did feel as though he was sidelined. Like, I'm trying to think at what point it was I sort of noticed it. It was probably some point in Act 2. I suddenly realised, I was like, hey, we've not really had much of Miles, have we?
We seem to have got those missions where he was trying to recover the musical instruments for that museum, the the university that he was working, that he's going to, helping out some of the students there.
I liked the musical instruments one was cool.
Yeah, it was quite cool.
The interactivity of all the instruments was just peak sound design.
Yeah, as you said, I think it was because the main story, the main arc of the whole story was pretty much going to be a Peter, Venom, Harry sort of like a situation there.
I still think they did Miles like great though with what they did do. Obviously, they brought Martin Lee back.
Yes,
for
that was a
Miles
good bit actually.
Mainly, and Mr. Negative's character arc was definitely really cool.
Very cool.
I liked seeing that. It was a good little redemption moment. And, something that I did get slightly disappointed with, again, looking back on it, is we never really saw his reaction to finding out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Obviously, he knew him in real life, but I think he already knew anyway. I think he realised in that moment in Feast, just before he possessed the homeless people to attack him, right? In the first game. So
must have had.
I guess that's why. I'd like confirmation of when the definitive moment was that he realised, though, just out of interest.
Yeah, I would flag that as well.
Something I've just remembered: the Mr. Negative and Miles boss fight. Actually, no, sorry, it wasn't the boss fight. It was just before the anti-Venom suit.
Yes.
At City Hall. The recreation of a Be Greater trailer, but with Miles. That was awesome.
Yes.
That was so cool. I was really happy to see that done. The way it fit in, it was awesome. Especially like the sort of poeticness of it being Miles instead of Pete, but Miles going through what Pete felt he was going through. And is finally seeing what that trailer actually really meant for Peter Parker, like he was being buried under the villains, felt guilty or whatever. That was really cool. It was a pretty awesome way to show that.
Agreed. Seeing as we're on the topic of Miles, I think we'll bring it up here so we can get past it. How did you feel about the final suit that was given to Miles and the whole in quotation marks controversy that's going on around it?
When it came up and I was sat playing it, I was like, okay, what the hell is that? Immediately after that cutscene, I was like, okay, I'll change his suit, and it let me, and that was fine. And then in the final mission, in the final act of the game, it changes it back and it locks it to a different suit for some reason, and it locks it to the Adidas suit, and that annoys me. I understand in the first game why we were locked to the Anti-Ox suit because it was story related, and in this game why Pete was locked to the Anti-Venom suit. Again, it's story related. This serves no story function. It was just randomly there. But what annoyed me the most about it, and still does, especially if it is just there as an ad placement, is the fact that it just discredits the main Miles Morales suit. Him saying, "Oh, it's Miles Morales original, you know, one of one."
So
it's like,
what was the original one?
I know. And
this fucking great suit
I
you
went
made.
back and replayed the mission for Miles Morales to check this. And okay, he didn't do everything fully himself. Ganke helped, but Ganke probably still helped here. Let's be real. And
that's like going, the Iron Man suit isn't actually fully Tony Stark. Jarvis helped a little bit. It's like, well, hold on a second. Wait, what?
Miles did all the stuff for this. He drew it and sketched it and everything. He came up with it. And then
did Ganke do nothing for this one?
Yeah, I don't know. But you could also say that, like, so Miles took like design ideas from Pete. Fundamentally, you look at the suits. Pete's advanced suit, Miles's standard suit, and upgraded suit. They look like a Spider-Man suit. It's clearly inspired. And then you could say, okay, so if this suit looked nothing like a Spider-Man suit, then it makes sense. It's a Miles and Morales original. It's not inspired by Pete's work at all.
Right.
But again, that's not the case. It's clearly still a Spider-Man suit with a mask and face and lens shape and everything. Oh, I've just remembered the mask. The hair sticking out. Why?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. It's literally giving away his identity. He has a very distinct accent and voice.
He's given
spends loads of time in Brooklyn where he probably
multiple clues to who he
probably
is.
one of the only people who has the matching hairstyle and voice. It doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't care in the slightest if it was just a regular suit unlock. But when I played this through, I thought people aren't going to like this. And then obviously it was made worse finding out that it was a paid placement thing.
But the hair
I just
thing,
hope it doesn't become the norm. Like I hope whatever exec decided to do this, learn something. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually think some of the suit styles are cool for it.
Yeah,
it's a cool suit to be fair. Like, so the base one I'm not too bothered about, but I think. The one that's like white gives me Spider-Gwen vibes, and there's one
one with the colors down the side, like it's multicolored down the side. Yeah, that one. I was gonna say that version. I was like, that looks pretty cool. Why wasn't that
I quite
used?
like that. And then there's the red one too, and I like both of those quite a lot. My main gripe with it is just the fact that it's forced into the story for no reason at all, and especially that it locks you to it. It's ridiculous that it locks you to it.
Forcing and locking was the main things. It was just, and it was at that point it was one of those things. It's like, why can't I change this? It's so stupid. I personally don't even like the suit. Like, what's this whole deal? It should have just been an unlock, and I can choose to use it or not. Oh, bloody hell! All right, continue playing. And then when you find out it's an ad thing, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, you got there. Anyway,
I hope they continue to do the ad placements like this in the future. I think it's quite cool to see real brands in the game, like seeing the Adidas stores around.
I think that is the power of PlayStation, really. They do have that kind of brand appeal now, and I think we will see more stuff like that. I just hope they do it just a little bit better. Just a little bit better.
I hope it doesn't. You shouldn't feel forced. Like, if they just did it as a suit unlock and they made it clear like it was an Adidas thing, then I think that would be better for Adidas as well.
It needs to be a little bit more like...
It's just locking it as a part of a story for no reason that makes no sense. And that's my main gripe with it.
It needs to be a little bit more like Disney, unfortunately, where it's like, hey, we've got a new character in this thing, and then the character is like a plushie or something like that you get made, or maybe... like, for example, the Spider-Man plushie that you find, that cat finds, for example. That's a cool little thing. Sell that. I'd buy one of those any day. That's totally cool.
I want one of those. So it was in the first game. It was in MJ's apartment.
Was it?
Yeah. And since that first game came out, I remember Googling to try and find one. And I was in it a few times since, and I never successfully have. So if anyone's watching or listening or whatever, and does know somewhere where you can get this same model, then please let me know, because I want one.
Don't suggest eBay, because I can't find any God of War Funko Pops, for example, and people keep coming to me and say, yo, Ed, I found some, they're on eBay, and I've bought them before, and they've always been fake, and they've always been terrible.
Yeah.
They're like paints off and shit like that. And I was like, no, don't suggest eBay, okay? All right, cool.
On the topic of controversies,
go
on. I just want to say about MJ's face. Really?
Yes, let's talk about MJ in general. Let's talk all about MJ. Go on. Let's make
and
MJ
emissions too as well. I mean, I say specifically her face. It didn't bother me at all. I get... There's a couple screenshots where I'm like, okay, I can see how it's changed quite a lot from the first game, and that could be distracting. But for the most part in the game, I didn't really notice it or get bothered by it at all, and I think she looked great for the most part. Realistic and everything. But especially... something I don't get is, back to the MJ run sequence. I don't know if it's just that the lighting in that sequence was really good, but she looked particularly, good there. Like, the character model. it looked really visually impressive. And the face shape and everything was just a lot more authentic and convincing. Whereas I think in some other scenes, the problem was it just came across a bit more flat. I don't really know. I don't have an issue with it at all. I think she looked great in the game, and I don't really understand why people are making such a big deal of it at all. Same for Pete.
I think she did as well. But I'm one of the people that didn't really understand. I saw the difference, but I didn't understand the controversy with Peter's face being changed as well. I was like, okay, it's a different face change. I was like, I mean, I wasn't as passionate as other people were. Other people were like, no, this is what I grew up with. This is my thing. This is what I remember. This is in my memories. Why are you trying to change my childhood? I'm like, whoa, calm down.
I can remember when it was announced, it was a screenshot of a remaster. And it was that one that's always used for it, the one in Doc Ock's lab.
Yep.
I remember scrolling through Twitter, and I think this was probably the moment it was announced, and it wasn't from Insomniac. I saw it. It was like another Spider-Man account, and I saw it. I was like, oh, that's cool. Someone photoshopped Tom Holland's face into the game, and then I found out it was like a replacement face model, and I think from that moment I was like, well, I can't deny that it doesn't look a bit like Tom Holland, because I legit thought it was someone adding it into the game, like Photoshop, and just putting it out on Twitter.
It's like the Aloy pictures that they do in it, where they like got Aloy and then they try and make the super AI pretty version.
I thought it was something like that. But when I played the game and the remaster actually released, I think it was mainly just that particular screenshot. In some particular scenarios, I can see the Tom Holland bit, but for the most part, I don't really see it anymore.
And with MJ, I was like, I mean, she's got her hair down versus like tied up in the way that she did in the first one. I was like, hey, she just looks different. Mainly the hair's doing a lot of it, but also the technology's gotten a lot better, so obviously things are going to look different and things like that. I was fine with it. I was just like, it's MJ.
I think the main thing that people have an issue with is if you look at MJ in the first game and then in the second game, her jaw seems to have like gone a lot more square, so it was a lot more rounded in the first game, and now it's gone a bit square, which is probably why it looks quite a lot different to people. Which is probably where the issue stems from. Like, there's definitely a clear-cut difference, but it's also definitely clearly the same face. Like, I don't understand the controversy and people getting mad about it if the face had clearly just completely changed.
Okay, I see what people are trying to do. Her face is also a little bit like longer downwards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a bit of a tweak.
Overall, I think it's an improvement. When the story trailer came out and we saw MJ for the first time in the MJ run sequence, and we saw that instead of the ponytail, her hair was down, I got excited, like really excited, specifically for the fact that I was like, oh my gosh, cool hair physics. And yeah, I got excited for that, and I thought it looked great and it looked animated great. I do like technical things in games like that. I do appreciate seeing things like hair flow and being like, oh, that's so accurate and realistic. It's really cool. Same with water physics. It reminds me of Rob from PlayStation Access. The Friday features he used to do on all the cool water and geeking out over the water. I'm exactly the same like that. Yeah, I appreciate those things. Up my alley. So I definitely like that it was down purely for a physics factor, and obviously, aesthetically, I think it worked well for her as well.
Yeah, aesthetically, let's put it out there. Let's just be honest. She's fine in this version of the game.
Absolutely,
she's fine. She's fine.
I think the model lists and stuff that Insomniac did a really, really good job with all the character models. One I was particularly impressed by was Norman Osborn. Actually,
yeah.
He seemed like really high fidelity. I don't know why. Maybe they're like just getting ready for the Goblin focus of the Spider-Man 3.
Could be. I was thinking it's probably because he's like everyone that we play with and usually and interact with mostly are young. They have like tight skin and they have like barely any wrinkles. But Norman is a bit older, so he has wrinkles. So there's bound to be more definition. But they didn't falter away from the challenge. They didn't turn away from it. They just went, no, we're going to make a good looking Norman, and he looked really, really good there. Really, really good.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So did the rest of the fuck. I didn't mention it before. You briefly mentioned it, but also, how gorgeous does this game look? The city, the lighting, the ray tracing,
so
even
good.
60 FPS. It's unbelievable what Insomniac have been able to do with
Yeah.
that. I was constantly at awe. I was like, oh. And then
All
they
the
have the best
time.
photo mode ever, and even better.
It is truly just mind blowing how good it looks.
Yeah. Should we talk a little bit
Just
about the
recently-
MJ missions? Sorry, go on. You want to say something there?
Sorry, just recently I was obviously doing other stuff with changing the time of day and things,
Hmm.
and I was trying to decide what my favorite like time of day actually is, and they all just look so good. I think dusk in particular is really impressive. Just the new skyboxes are glorious, and then the way that rain and thunder and everything works, and the way that the puddles are generated on the floor when it's raining, they look so good with the reflections. Everything's just really, really visually impressive. You can't really put it into words. You just kind of have to look at it and just stare for hours and hours.
Isn't it amazing that we're at this point in gaming where we could just have such gorgeous
really
experiences
is.
like this? And on console as well. Like, for the longest time, it's always been like PC gamers like going, what you got with that weak piece of crap over there? But here PS5
Now some of the
is-
best looking games are on console, which is crazy.
Exactly. The MJ missions. I do want to put it down that I didn't have as big of a problem with the MJ missions this time. That actually the missions were quite fun. They were quite interesting in my opinion. The only thing that, and I think everybody has this issue with the MJ missions. The only thing that I had an issue with was just how insanely powerful that gun was that MJ had.
Yeah, I think was it Eric Monticelli from Marvel Games. I think he sort of said in an interview, "Was like, I just don't care. It works.
Yeah.
So we don't care if she needs to be OP. It's more fun for the game." And that's a viewpoint I take on that. I completely agree.
It wasn't going to work any other way. It wasn't going to work any
Yeah.
other way. What was you going to do? Make MJ take 14 shots at a guy before he dies? It's like
Exactly.
not like Spider-Man has to punch him with the Spider-Man strength multiple times. This is the only way it would have worked. And it was a video game at the end of the day. It's a small section. This is the only way it would work. But it was just funny to see the comparison. It was like Spider-Man
I fully
swings
get
in,
it.
14 punches and kicks, webs up into the sky, drops on the ground, does a somersault, cracks him in the neck, and then eventually goes down. MJ, done.
I mean, it's a problem with just Spider-Man's powers, like, just in general. He obviously has to pull his punches, because otherwise he just one-hit punches everyone and it's dead. And it's just it's instant death. So you could say, like, in the games, it's technically not accurate, because if you wanted to, you could just calculate it so he just instantly knocks all these people out with the correct amount of force. And it is a game, right? Stuff like that, you just kind of have to sit there and believe. Like,
it's a
one thing that
superhero
wouldn't be
game.
done in
Two
films, for
steps of
instance.
disbelief you need to do. Video game and superhero. 2 steps there.
Exactly. And one thing that wouldn't work in the films that I'd never do is, would Craven have had an absolutely massive army in a film? Probably not.
Mate, never ending. Where do you get all of these henchmen
Exactly.
and all these blind followers? The fucking the Crimson guys, the Flame people as well. Where do they find all these complete nut jobs that are gonna blindly follow them into doing any all the time?
And the same goes to the symbiote army too. Like, again, in films, it might not have probably happened. It made sense in the story though, and I thought the way they did that was actually really good.
At least with the Symbiote army, it's like, cool, I'm taking over civilians. All right, there's loads of civilians. Cool.
Exactly. That made sense.
But these other
It
guys
was
are like,
good there.
I'm a trained hunter from Serbia. It's like, okay, cool.
But the thing is, there's no game if they don't do that. So I see people pointing out, being like, it's ridiculous how this works. It's like, yeah, but then the game isn't there and it's boring. So it's going to be like that. So I'm intrigued to see how they do the third game, because if they're focusing in on Doc Ock and Green Goblin, then how do they give them like armies? Do we have like those little goblin gremlins or something? I don't know how that'll work.
Who knows?
The way I'd might like to see it approached is potentially just loads of criminals, just like regular criminals just following him or something.
Could be. I mean, I wonder what they would do.
The MJ missions though.
Yeah, the MJ missions. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Don't know how I got that off tracked. Yeah, so I'll be honest. I never really had a massive issue with them in the first game. I couldn't tell you how many playthroughs I had of the first game either. Like, more than 30, I would confidently say. Probably more than 50.
Damn.
I liked the game a lot.
I don't. I think that's an understatement. I think that's an understatement at this point.
Yeah, probably.
You can say that if you play it 5 times. If you play it more than 5 times, it's something more.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. But I think as you did more and more, yeah, they definitely are repetitive and whatnot, and they can become a bit painful to go through in the original game. But you can run through them if you want. Like, you can whack the difficulty down and then basically just run through them and skip past them. And you can do the same with this game. I believe the lowest difficulty option is impossible to die on or get caught or anything. So you can literally just run. Yeah, so you can just run through them if you wanted to.
Okay.
But I obviously don't want to do that because it's more fun not to do that.
And it's part of the experience. You just got to
exactly. Yeah. And I can see why people had the issues with the MJ missions in the first game. Definitely, I had a few myself. Like I say, just wasn't as major as other people might have had them. And the improvements they made here were massive. Arguably one of the biggest steps forwards, really. In terms of like core fundamental gameplay. I mean, just giving her the web shooters for starter, that's just really powerful to actually have some kind of distance and proper, easy, quick distractions to fire off rather than having to line up how you're going to throw this Sable gadget and then decide, you can just about reach over there. That person will walk 2 meters and then I can just sneak past. Whereas this just made a heck of a lot more sense. It felt like The Last of Us Part 2 in many ways, actually.
Yeah, I could see that. In fact,
even with the music that happened
well.
with those sequences, the MJ sequences, everything about it definitely gave me The Last of Us Part 2 vibes. Just running away from people, thinking, oh no, they're about to see me, run. And in a good way, of course.
Like
I definitely saw lots of inspiration from other Sony first-party games here, and that's absolutely a good thing.
Do you reckon Neil Druckmann and the Naughty Dog team saw it that way as well? Or do you reckon that they got on the phone and they were like, Brian Intar, they're like, Brian, I don't know who gave you the idea that you could copy our shit, but I will find you. I will find you, hunt you down in your sleep.
Nah, I don't think Neil Druckmann did a Taken. I think
he's a big
the
fan
way
of
PlayStation Studios just run in general is they're all very collaborative with each other. I'm sure it was probably intentional. Insomniac probably even approached him maybe. It would be cool to know if this did happen even. Thinking, okay, so we want these cool stealth missions, but the first game we weren't entertaining enough. Let's speak to the guys at Naughty Dog and be like, say, obviously the ones in The Last of Us are great. What kind of advice do you have that we could do to up the MJ missions in our game? And I strongly believe that probably happened. I actually want to know if it did happen now. I bet it did. I'd put money on that happening. I'm not going to, but I maybe would.
I say we put money down on it, on this thing that we can never verify. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone's watching who would know that, let us know.
Please do. How did you feel about the Scream reveal?
That caught me off guard.
Yeah?
I thought it was really cool. It felt kind of sudden, to be fair. But that kind of thing is, you can't build up to that.
There's no. I thought it was done really well, actually.
Yeah, me too. Definitely caught me off guard. I was like, whoa, did not expect this.
Especially because it had all the things that Scream was saying while what MJ was saying while she was taken over. All of the things that you would assume, like the pain points of a relationship, especially dating a superhero, what it would be, just feeling like you're not noticed, like you're not taken care of, and that kind of stuff. And
like I said about building up, they did still build up to that.
Yeah. They did all the stuff before to be like, oh, yeah, why haven't we moved in together? What's going on? Stuff like that. And you're like, ooh, trouble in paradise. I think that was quite a nice little bit there. And it gave a bit more, it was just more stuff to Peter's relationship and the things that Peter has to deal with. Again, the thing that I really love about superheroes, as well as all the cool stuff they can do, like lifting a building and like, I'm a big Superman fan, so like flying the speed of a bullet and stuff like that, faster than the speed of a bullet, all that stuff is how they handle the morals of life and the day-to-day life stuff while being such a super person. And this was just another one of those things that I really love about Spider-Man, is like he has to juggle this relationship and he has to put the relationship effectively second to saving a bunch of other people in the world because people rely on him. And how does MJ take that? And it's such a cool thing. And then seeing all of that, because as a human would, bottle that all in and then eventually just burst out. And unfortunately it was forced out of her because the symbiote army, the symbiote took over her as well. I thought that was very well done. I really liked that. Really, really did.
Yeah. It was all really good.
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking of that, the boss fights were definitely much, much better than in the first game.
Oh, yeah. Multiple
They were
phases
constructed
and
a lot better, having the different phases clearly laid out. The health bar just added quite a bit as well, to be fair. Yeah, it was definitely a big improvement. I mean, everywhere from the first game and second game, well, Miles Morales, where they could have improved, they have. There's just a few little things that haven't moved across with it, but I don't really understand why, like we mentioned earlier. And two that I have just remembered that I want to point out, because I'm curious if you've noticed them too. But the selfie mode in photo mode is gone.
Oh, do you know, now you mention it, yeah, it's not in there.
Yeah.
I mean, do
I
you
don't know
reckon
why.
that Insomniac got really upset that we were taking selfies with Peter's dead body, almost dead body anyway, on the floor? As Miles Morales.
I don't know. I really doubt it. I just don't understand why that would be removed because, I mean, when it's already there in the engine, I don't quite get. I don't know.
I can't get it either. Yeah, I don't know why they would do
weird. And that just reminded me of something else. I don't like how Miles and Pete have different poses. Like, for some reason, they should have. All of them should be available for both, in my opinion. Mainly because I realized this was a thing because I was like, oh, this would be a great tweet idea. I'm going to put on Miguel O'Hara's suit, go over to Jefferson Davis's grave, and use the meme pose of the guy standing over the grave because Miles has that pose 1-to-1 for the meme, and post this on Twitter. Like, this is a great tweet for Across the Spider-Verse. Works brilliantly, but the pose doesn't exist for Pete, so I couldn't do it.
That's annoying.
Oh, and then the other thing I was going to say that I've noticed isn't here that I wish was, in the first game, the advanced suit, I'm not sure if it did it on any of the other suits, but when you dived or were moving quite fast through the city, the material did actually ripple. Like, there was a ripple to it, like in the Amazing Spider-Man films.
Interesting.
Now there isn't, and it doesn't do it on the original advanced suit either, so that sort of physics bit has been removed. Whether it was just too computationally intensive or moved it for optimizations, I don't know. But I was really looking forward to getting to use it with the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit, and I noticed immediately that it was not there.
I think it might be something like that because I watched the Digital Foundry episode before the game came out to check out the technical stuff and whatnot, and there were a few things that they clearly chose. They were like, okay, this thing is not needed to be such high resolution, high polygon count, stuff like that, like cans, for example, in some areas or whatever it might be. And what's his name? Is it John? Theorized that it's because, well, they've done so many other cool things, like the fast travel, for example, is a completely new meaning to fast travel. It's instantaneous travel now, and the animation that comes into it. Unbelievable. So in order to do things like that and to do the wind tunnels where you can fly across the map in seconds, they went, okay, we're going to turn this thing off, we're going to turn that thing off that nobody really cares about. And maybe they thought that this was something that people didn't care about, so maybe they turned that off as well.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's just one of those tiny things that, again, it doesn't impact how I feel about the game at all. It doesn't really impact my score for the game. It's just a minor thing that existed before. So when you've been given something and then it's been taken away, you just miss it a bit, I guess. Whereas if it wasn't in the first game, then I wouldn't miss it or even think about it in the slightest. So who cares? But that's my only issues with the game, really. Are that kind of thing. So that's all I really have to say, as you can tell from this entire conversation. I thought the game was absolutely amazing in every single way. There's just one or two little things that just kind of aren't there in terms of features that could definitely be patched in, and I hope they do, of course.
I hope they do as well. I hope they do. However,
We'll just have to wait and see.
I was actually just gonna say. However, they are working on Wolverine next, so they're probably all hands on deck for that. But Insomniac seems to be one of those studios that can seem to work on multiple projects, multiple AAA titles, and not be stretched too thin for somehow. Everyone else takes 5 years to make one game, recently. And then these guys are making 4.
So it's really, really something else. They truly are wizards and definitely are Insomniacs.
Exactly. They lived up to their name. They just don't sleep.
Absolutely not. They've definitely got multiple teams though, because they've got a AAA multiplayer project in the works as well, right?
Yep. Don't know anything.
And the team's grown a lot since, so I imagine we'll still have a lot of the team on Spider-Man 2, especially if they are working on DLC or anything like that, which we obviously don't know about.
Yeah, we don't know if that Craven tease was going to be for a future game, for a side game, or a DLC or something like that. If I had to guess, I would say it might be an expansion of a smaller one like Miles Morales sort of thing. And it might be that, because it was tied in with they kept mentioning Crimson Hour, and obviously it was the cult leader that took the Craven vial. So I think it might be something to do with that, and then that makes me think it might be like an expansion, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Regardless, we know we're getting a big December update, so hopefully we see lots of stuff in that, in addition to New Game Plus and everything.
Yeah.
Something I thought about we haven't spoken about.
Go on.
Just Venom in general, I guess, and him being playable.
That was a moment. That was a moment getting to play.
It truly was
as Venom. I was hoping the entire time, and we didn't get to, there was no inkling that we were going to get to actually play as Venom, except for obviously having the symbiote suit.
Am I allowed to say this? I can't see why I wouldn't be allowed to say this.
It's a spoiler cast. Go on.
In the NDA we were given with the early access, for what we could not speak about in reviews and things, there was a bullet point that said not to speak about any playable characters outside of Peter, Miles, and MJ. So obviously when I read that confirmed to me, okay, so MJ missions are coming back. But obviously I was also other playable characters.
We're playing as Norman Osborn, everyone. Norman Osborn, we're playing as him.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what that meant. So I was like, okay, so Venom's probably playable. But before I got to that point, I'd played the Haley side mission. So I was like, did they just not want to say that Haley's playable? But I thought that was too far-fetched. I was like, why would that be in this?
They really want to keep the Haley side missions a secret.
So I didn't quite understand that, but I let that sort of say to me, okay, so that's what we're on about. So it still definitely caught me off guard and surprised me. But there was definitely still that part in my mind being other playable characters. And then when the camera panned around, I was still very much oh, yes. And, yeah, it felt so powerful, didn't it? Just the way you just instantly smashed everything else up. And speaking about how games can do things that films and TV just can't, is here it's so powerful that they make you play as the villain of the rest of the game and fight the same sort of enemies as you've been fighting previously, and see just how much easier it is for that villain than when you're playing as Spider-Man, and how fast you can destroy things and just take them out. And then also the fact they make you fight the villain that literally killed Spider-Man. Peter Parker did die when he got stabbed, right? Like, he was going to die. If not, he was already dead, and the symbiote might have even revived him.
Yeah, could have been
whether he
easily
was
dead for
medically
like a
dead at
second
that
or
moment,
so,
I
or
don't
something
know.
like that.
Yeah. But the
then
fact
fighting
they then
Kraven.
make you go into what I thought was by far the easiest boss fight of the game, also one of the coolest, and that boss fight being with what was previously one of the hardest, if not the hardest, boss fights of the game, where you were playing as Spider-Man, and instantly just destroying that previous massive bad guy is the new one, truly just puts into perspective, okay, he's pretty damn powerful. And I think that's just a really good way to convey that films and TV can't do. And I mean, the dialogue, the music, the graphics, everything about it was perfect. It was so well done.
It really was done well. I really enjoyed that as well. Perfectly put. Perfectly put. There were so many because of the photo mode being so good, and because it was such like a cool moment, and all of the moves that he had as well, especially like with the black tendrils just going out and like hitting everyone, constantly taking photos.
Awesome.
I was constantly like hitting the photo mode button throughout my gameplay just to get these cool shots and stuff like that.
I wasn't.
You wasn't. You was playing. Oh, I don't know.
My
how you
first
managed to do it.
run, I just wanted to go full in, immersing the story. I used photo mode probably like twice, just to look at details if I couldn't see them close up. You know, when you've got like loads of notes on the board and you're trying to get the camera to it and you can't, and you want to read them. Little areas like that, I might have used it. My second run through, I used it a lot.
It was such a good moment getting to play as Venom and. It was great. It was fucking great. I really love it.
What gets me is the fact that they obviously added the new animations for him to be playable and everything like that, the abilities and the charge and everything like that for it to be a playable character. And they did all of that for like half an hour, probably not even that, like 20 minutes. Only Insomniac would do something like that, and it was so worth it. So good.
Yeah.
I'm definitely liking the movement of having these more than one playable characters in games, like with Atreus in God of War as well.
Yeah. People need to. Some people don't like that, but I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too.
This is a very cool idea. Very cool idea. All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? I mean, we've both loved this game. I'm sure you're going to play it another 70 or 80 more times before the end of the year.
I mean, to be honest with you, just before I hopped on this call, I've just booted up onto my 67th playthrough.
I could see on Discord, it's like, Terry is playing Marvel Spider-Man 2. Of course he is.
Yeah,
I'm
just swinging around in photo mode in it. How many times I've played it twice properly, one spectacular and one ultimate. And then I've played it a third time through, skipping over cutscenes and in the lowest difficulty, basically just speedrunning it to create a manual save of each mission so I can replay them whenever I want.
I might have one more replay when the like expansion or DLC comes out in me, because I don't know if you saw, I mean, I went on your website today, mybacklog.gg. My backlog list is insane. So I don't know if I can afford to play Spider-Man 2 another 80 more times like you, okay?
I mean, the reason I have such a massive backlog is because the only thing I keep playing is Spider-Man.
You're like, well, if I don't start
I guess I only really have myself to blame for that, but Insomniac, stop making such a good Spider-Man game that's too addictive and so fun to just swing around in.
Really,
it's making me so I don't
Insomniac
play anything else. It's too
really
good.
Insomniac are the bad guys. They're the ones. It's their fault for making a good
Absolutely,
game, okay?
complete villains. Actually, have we spoken about the end of the game?
Oh, the very end of the game. No, we haven't actually. Should we speak about that before we head off?
yeah, probably should just quickly go over it. So, I like that they didn't kill Harry off. I thought, like they basically did, right? They've said, okay, it seems like he's definitely not going to come back, but it's one of them things where if what they were calling the G serum, I wonder what that is, works as a cure. then obviously it's leaving the door open for him to be able to come back, and I hope he does. I liked Harry as a character; it was all great, and I liked all the EMF stuff too. Just the general character building and relationship building between Pete and Harry was all done really well. Like, I think a lot of people will go into this not remembering that it was also done in the first game. The Oscorp research centers, they were all obviously there to build that relationship, and the phone calls with Harry and Pete's dialogue and everything. And the flashback sequences definitely helped a lot. Oh, speaking of those, I loved them. I loved the Peter Parker flashback sequences. I
Going
thought
back to the school and everything.
Yeah. And the little side mission too, where you had to go and deliver your photo to JJJ.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff. It actually has really made me want like a Spider-Man Origins game.
That would be fun. That would be fun as hell.
The issue with it, and I know it won't happen probably because of that, is for them to do that, they'd obviously have to make the gameplay worse. So if they do it, I think it would just be a cool like 3-hour DLC or something.
Well, yeah, it'd have to be something smaller. But you see, this thing, I'm very big on origin stories when it comes to like superheroes and stuff like that, because it's a different dynamic. You probably won't get huge villains because they're not like as established, because there's that thing in the rule in superhero movies and comic books and stuff like that, where like the superhero being there is what causes all the super villains to come out. It's all pretty normal.
I mean, J. Jonah Jameson has it right, to be fair.
Exactly. And you have the clumsiness stage of like a superhero getting used to their abilities and all that sort of stuff, and then coming up across their first thing, whether or not they should or they shouldn't come out to the public. I like that kind of stuff, and it could be done. It could be done, but just like you said, it would be slightly worse because you won't be full swinging and you won't be web shooting all across the city and stuff like that. So
just don't get me wrong. I'm definitely glad Insomniac started this universe with like a 8-year in Spider-Man. Like that was really cool, and I'm very, very glad they did that. But now we've spent so much time with him, I think it would just be cool to get more of a glimpse into his past, whether it's through more flashbacks in the future or via an actual like very short little DLC standalone side thing. It'd just be a cool thing to do, and I would not mind in the slightest if the gameplay's made worse. I really enjoyed that side mission where you could beat up the thugs as Peter Parker. That was also cool.
It made me think about at what age. To be fair, in that moment, I swear to you, he seemed like he was 14 years old. How old was he in that flashback? He must have been old enough to obviously get a job, like a paper and stuff like that. But he seemed super young, and I was like, okay, when did he actually get bitten by the spider?
It's like 15, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And I was like, it was a fun little flashback moment, and it was the best part of it, in my opinion, was just obviously seeing how his relationship with J. Jonah Jameson started and whatnot. It added that nice little bit of like lore to the whole story.
It was also cool to see that, I might be wrong in this, but I'm pretty sure it showed us that the Daily Bugle building was the Flatiron building, like in the Raimi films. So I thought that was cool. Obviously, it's changed since in the universe. I might be wrong. I'm just 99% sure it was.
Well, in the comment section, people can let us know about that. Let us know.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and play that too. I'm pretty sure it was.
I did like you said, how they left the door open with Harry. Although they could have gone the other way, and I think I would have liked it a lot. It would have been a ballsy move to kill him off in the end, but he was in the end a good guy, and I think that lends to like him surviving. But we've had good guys die in the past and whatnot, and that's also a very powerful moment. So I think it could have been done either way. Like, he sacrificed himself, like the way he did in the game. Like he was ready to sacrifice his life to stop all of this madness.
Yeah.
And had he died, it would have been a heroic death, and it would have been.
But the main reason I'm glad it didn't end up in death is, I mean, the first game ended up in May's death, obviously.
It would have been the third game. Who's gonna die next? Oh, let's see.
And the second game ending. Well, Miles Morales ending with a Tinkerer sacrificing herself at the end and choosing to die. I just felt Harry dying here was too predictable. it's what I was going with the entire way through. I was always assuming he was going to die at the end. So I'm just glad that they didn't do that. It actually threw me off a bit, and I expected them to do that.
I think what they should have done is they should have
I'm
killed
glad they didn't.
MJ and then continued the trend in Spider-Man 3 where they kill another woman and they're just killing women every single time. And then that'll be
Maybe.
the online trend.
Or if they were going to kill MJ, they should have had Pete do it when he was in the symbiote suit.
Oh, mate, that's the... You know, if
It's dark,
games
I know,
weren't-
but I don't care.
No, but if games weren't so high budget and they weren't so time consuming and stuff like that, imagine just making like a one-off variant. Just like imagine if rage got to him and he
Like
couldn't
a
control
what if
himself in
series,
time.
but of games.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
that'd be
that
cool.
is a what if you want to see it. Like, oh man, he just never comes back. He just never comes back from the dark side because you wouldn't come back. Otherwise, you have to face
No,
what you've
exactly.
done. Oh my god, that's so hardcore. Oh, that's so good.
Which is why, like I
Yeah.
said, I kind of wish something more serious had happened whilst he was wearing the suit. Not that he would have actually killed someone close to him, but just something that would have had more long-term consequences.
Even if it was something like, oh, like a police officer showed up at the scene and he couldn't save him, or his actions caused for him to die or to be in a coma or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Something deep. Well, bro, this was a fucking fantastic conversation. I'm glad I got to talk to somebody who actually has played the game and not pretended like they played the game.
Wait. Oh no, my trophy list shows me he's not having any. Oh
You just-
no, I don't think I've
just
played the game.
Gaslight
may
yourself
have-
into thinking it.
I have.
You
I
saw
think I
all
might
the
have just,
reviews
like, heard
on
what other
Rimbago
people
Day.
said. Ah. Oops.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yep, can't believe it.
Well, guys, at least you've been listening to one person who has actually played it. I have the trophy list to prove it.
So
Josh, on
do I,
the
to
other
be
hand,
fair.
doesn't have anything, unfortunately. But yeah, this was absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk to me. Is there anything that you want to plug, like your YouTube channel, for example, or the tens of Ks of subscribers you have over there producing great content? Do you want to let everybody know about that?
Yeah, so I if you've not heard of me before, I do PlayStation focused content. So whether it's around the hardware, accessories, newly released games, so I might go through like the best settings. So I did it for Spider-Man 2, other general guides as well as like reviews, general stuff on that, like listicles, so best accessories. If you're into all that stuff, check me out, Octorious on YouTube, and give me a follow on Twitter as well. Also, I made a website recently. It's called mybacklog.gg. I'm really proud of it. It's got a cool recommendation system and everything. Check it out. It's cool. I'm happy with it.
I really like it as well. Do you know what?
Thank
When
you.
we spoke about it at that time that we met at EGX, when we spoke about it at that time, I didn't know it was actually launched. And like literally this morning, I was like, "Oh, let me just go check out check out some of the like your latest videos and stuff like that." And you mentioned it.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like,
so-
"Wait, it's actually up? Hold on a
No, so
second."
that site, it was at the point at EGX, I had a beta version of it out. So it was actually up, but it wasn't in search results, and you couldn't find it in other places and stuff.
'Cause I remember you saying
I
something
launched
like
it with my Spider-Man 2 settings video on the 19th.
Right.
So that's when it went
Okay.
up properly publicly.
Well, all of his links will be in the description for you guys to check out. Feel free
Thank
to
you.
go over there, give him a follow and stuff like that. Thank you everybody for watching this video, watching this spoilercast. There'll be more stuff like that. And thank you, Josh, for joining me for this episode. It was really awesome. I hope I can have you back
thank
again
you very
someday.
much. Yeah, hopefully. It's been fun.
All right. We'll catch you in the next one, everyone. Goodbye.